And is there anybody who would like to start it off with a land acknowledgement, or shall I?
I can do it. I think it'd be good practice. It's been.
Awesome.
So as always, we begin by acknowledging the land and bringing our attention to the land, because the land was here long before we became people, and the land is the source of us, of everything that we experience, everything that keeps us alive, um, and everything returns to the land eventually, including our own bodies. So this is a reminder of our deep, intricate interconnection and interdependence with the land. We are a part of the land. We are not separate from it. There is no way for that to ever be possible. um, and part of acknowledging the land is also acknowledging our indigenous relatives, including our own ancestors, our own indigenous ancestors who have held the wisdom, of that interconnection and that interdependence for as long as humans have been people, and they continue to hold that wisdom and many related practices, very often at great expense to their own, well-being, their safety, and their survival. And they are in a constant, ongoing struggle to be able to be sovereign in those practices and to share them freely and to exist and to embody in the ways that, are traditional for them. So we can look to our indigenous relatives to, um, remind us of ways that we can be more in right relationship in the places where we live, and also, to learn about ways that we can move into reciprocity with them, ways that we can give back, ways that we can participate and learn and grow in community with them. So I'll specifically acknowledge the, Tonkawa people who are, indigenous to so-called Central Texas, as well as dozens, well, at least a dozen other semi-nomadic tribes who were, in and out of this area for a very long time.
Thank you, Ronnie. Um, Lovely as usual. Um, we usually start with a check-in, and I think what I'm going to do today, I'm saying everything out loud just to see for feedback. Um, I think let's abbreviate a little bit our, we spend a significant amount of time in the coordination circle checking in on our North Star. And I think that's still a good opportunity. And let's also sort of keep it contained. So I'm going to blend that in to the check-in question. And no, I'm not. I'm going to divide it up. I think it's still worth a little special time. So let's do the check-in question that's coming to mind. Given everything that's going on right now in the world, maybe just a simple "How you doing?" and "What are you noticing?" And then once we do that, we'll do a little bit of a North Star check-in. So the circle, as I see it, is Ronnie, Justin, Angela, Fee, and me. And Roland will be joining us. So I'm going to put him after Fee and before me in, and there he is. And so Roland, you're just in time. Wait till you're actually there. Hi, Roland. We just did our land acknowledgement and grounding, and we're just doing a check-in. And the check-in question is a general "How you doing?" and "What are you noticing?" And the circle is Ronnie, Justin, Angela, you, Fee in there if she wants to jump in, and then you, then me. And I'll put that in chat and then over to you, Ronnie, for your check-in.
Um, I'm noticing that really prioritizing the practices that support me and my mental health and my physical health is helping me a lot in this time. and having some accountability around that is helping me a lot. Um, and I'm finding that I'm able to stay more calm and grounded through all of the turmoil than I have in the past, at least this week. So, feeling really grateful for that and the community that is around me that helps me do that. And I will pass it to Justin.
I'm going to pass to Angela.
Ooh, I wasn't planning on that. Um, I've really been focusing, at least on the last 2 days, about balancing my buckets and um, seeing or just being curious as to what bucket I'm filling most and what buckets I would like to fill more of. In the last couple of days, I feel like I've been doing a pretty good job at, which, yeah, it's hard to say for some reason because taught to be humble and whatever. Um, yeah, I'm feeling tired. I think it's from the sun, spending time in the garden and working up a sweat. And Fee, as for Fee, I think she would say she's feeling pretty good. She's got some energy from some carrot ginger soup she shared with Justin, and she's clean. She has a shower, and now she's ready to play.
She's noticing her hands.
Yeah, she's noticing her hands and waving, and we think she's signing milk and starting to sign some things, which is exciting. I pass to Roland.
Am I unmuted? Hey, I am. I had a very chatty morning, chatty deep, chatty deep, and I am feeling a bit chatted out, and but not a big deal, and I am noticing how much of suffering and pain is coming from all sorts of unrecognized deep fears, which helps me to see and acknowledge that in how I'm interpreting the way others behave and is helping with feelings of compassion and patience. Um, uh, from the local to the global. Uh, so that's what I'm noticing. I happened on a really awesome um, help you sleep broadcast on YouTube where essentially it is Buddhism in a nutshell and so I'm a little bit inspired from having that whispering at me through the night. Over to Ben.
And I'll just bounce back to Justin to see if you want to come back in, or do you want to pass entirely?
I guess I'm just low energy and I'm just noticing. Yeah. Ow. Yeah, I'm just trying to notice where my thoughts are at and emotions and what I'm responding to and where my energy is going. Yeah, pass to Ben.
I've had sort of an unexpectedly full day so far, so I kind of also am in that chatted out mode. I want this meeting to be as easy as possible. Um, and what am I noticing? Um, I think I'm on a contact high still from the Norm Leach workshop this weekend. And I think it goes along with Roland. It's sort of the flip side to what you were saying in terms of how many patterns can really be traced back to people's fears. And the flip side of that with um, my mantra today is the land's got this, I am the land, therefore I got this. And uh, Norm just seems to be such an embodiment of what is possible when you honestly feel that connection that I have been aspiring to for quite a while. And um, yeah, so I think, the opposite of fear is connection. And um, yeah, I'm inspired by that. So that's where I am starting off. And I was saying before you popped in, Roland, that I think I'm trying to figure out how to manage that this is kind of a continuation meeting and also kind of a separate meeting on its own. So I was thinking North Star Light as just a way to touch into, what are we, why are we here? What's the purpose? And I think rather than going through all the questions, I think it's and typing it, I'm going to do the double round. We each get a chance to sort of say, why are we here doing this work? Why are we taking the time to do this? And then what are we noticing in each other's shares? So over to you, Ronnie. Why bother?
My answer today feels particularly informed by our conversation last week. And so what I have to say today is we are here to be with what is happening in the world, honestly, and to find and share ways to respond or to increase our capacity to respond in the ways that seem the most appropriate and timely. Yeah, I feel like that was kind of a run-on sentence, but that's what I have for right now. Over to Justin.
Why am I here? I think it's like I feel like I'm copping out, but I'm here to reduce suffering and find a way into right relationship and to facilitate right relationship and to be part of an organization that is actively attempting that is it's to be working in a group and coordinating with others, I think, on that common cause. Pass to Angela.
I think I'm here and why we are doing what we are doing is to create a to create a living to create a way of living that I would have benefited from as a kid and as my children will benefit from, and so on and so forth. And to leave this space or the spaces that I occupy better than I left it, to the best of my abilities, hopefully through community and community that's here, small and larger, and hoping that reverberates as much as it can. I pass to Roland.
Uh, uh, I guess what I'm doing here right now in this moment is one of a long string of renewing my commitment to um, uh, living ethically in this broken world. And I think I'm partially quoting someone, and I can't remember who. But yep, I think that this is where I feel like I am at the moment. So over to Ben.
The slogan that's coming to mind for me is that we care for the land to heal the people, and we heal the people to care for the land. And yeah, and a little bit the cosmic irony. I think reducing suffering, that whole understanding our interconnection and overcoming the binary, that somehow it's either self-care or other care, but it's that's ridiculous. That it is self-care done rightly is other care, and other care done rightly is self-care. So, and I think the other kind of the acknowledging that um, there are lots of ways of describing it, but that there is something out of balance. There is uh, we've lost our way. There's a lot of healing that needs to be done, and uh, yeah. So ultimately, it is about, and that makes me think healing is a natural property of all living systems. It's not like we have to do healing. We just support the healing process and don't get in the way. So figuring out how to keep the wound clean and aerated and nourish and then let nature do what nature does. So we've each had a chance to share, and we'll just do another round so that we have a chance to respond. What's resonating with you? What's standing out for you? What's coming up for you? Ronnie, over to you.
I think the in-betweenness of hospicing the old culture and birthing the one that, or midwifing the one that we want to be creating, which is a collective endeavor. Um, and it's it's iterative and it's non-linear and it's a very both and process, and it's a practice. Over to Justin.
I'll pass to Angela.
Yeah, I think what's coming up for me is being aware of this necessary suffering in order for life to keep on going. I think that's all I want to say. I pass to Roland.
I continue to be enriched by hearing about what Ben experiences and reads. So I didn't hear this myself, I don't think. But I think one of the things that Norm Leach talked about was um, how something like hug a tree, and that it's not just to hug the tree, but that you can give the tree your heaviness and it carries it into the earth, and then the earth just takes care of it. And whether or not, and in my practicing agnosticism, it's not important what the actual mechanics is, but it to me it acts as a really strong reminder of what we're talking about, which is that we're part of a complex system. and that what I think of as mine is actually collective, and that it's not up to me to know what w- it's not for me to know how things happen or how things work, but it is up to me to um, show up in um, uh, show up with my curiosity and my openness and my playfulness. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I think I did overline the and trusting in that I think that giving it to the tree, giving it to the land, giving it's sort of just this recognition of um if I'm on the side of reality, I can't lose. Like if I'm on the side of life and what that means, then no matter what happens is okay. And and again, the cosmic irony of I'm more I can only be responsible when I'm okay with what I can and can't do. If I can't respond, I'm not responsible, if I can't do anything about it. Um, and ironically, letting myself off the hook then opens up all of these possibilities that get closed off when I'm dangling from a hook. So yeah, letting things be easier, learning to accept that there are things that are mine and things that aren't mine. And I just need to focus on the things that are mine. Right. Okay, so we've done a little bit of a check-in on our North Star, and we have basically we had a fairly rich and productive conversation the last time, and now we wanted to, I think, get to the action items, I think, is the goal for today. Um, and a lot of the conversation was sort of recognizing that we've had falling participation in the guilds and in events, and practically how do we respond to that? And then I guess in more detailed, like what are the next things that we do? So sort of an accumulation of items is finishing that conversation about how do we respond to low engagement. And then I put in here a little update on the weekend with Norm, as I think it relates to some practical things about boot camps and finances and things like that. And then we want to get the pay it forward appeal moving. Like, Roland and I desperately need it to move forward. And there's also a plan for World Localization Day, whatever that might be. And I mean, what the plan might be. We know what World Localization Day is. And then getting ready for the July boot camp and the newsletter. And I'm going to go once around just for a check-in on the agenda items. And, generally, what are you hoping to accomplish with our time together? Is there anything you want to add to it, or where you want to put the emphasis? Ronnie, where is you at?
Seems like a pretty full agenda, and throughout today, I've kind of been thinking about spending more time talking about the practical action items as a way to address the low engagement, because we're talking about events, we're talking about emailing people about things and things going on and solstice and stuff. So my feeling is that perhaps the problem is the solution sort of thing. The solution is in taking these steps to reach out to people, and try some new things potentially. So we may not need to get lost in the weeds of another long discussion, which I don't think we got lost in the weeds. I think the discussion was spot on. But anyway, so that's kind of been my thinking. over to Justin.
I'll pass to Ange.
The agenda looks good to me. Yeah, pass to Roland.
Yeah, the agenda looks fine. Um, uh, well, and actually, I'm wondering about would it be better to move the plan for World Localization Day lower and hit Gumboot Boot Camp, or I could go either way. Um, the Gumboot Boot Camp is something that's already happening. The Pay It Forward appeal is something that we need. The plan for World Localization Day is something that we've never done and we don't need to do. So that's why I was thinking it could maybe go lower, but I'm open to whatever. Over to Ben.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I do, especially putting the pay it forward appeal. That's one of the things Ronnie talked about in the Asana discussion, is there's a connection there between the pay it forward and the outreach, and I think that's true for the World Localization Day. So it's kind of all in that category, but I do think it's useful to point out we don't have to do World Localization Day. No one would notice if we didn't. So it's an opportunity for whatever we might want to do. And that's June 21st, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So, and I kind of feel like I'm restating this to see if this makes sense, where um, we don't really need to go into what are we going to do about low engagement. We just need to do the rest of the things on the agenda, knowing that this is all kind of responding to that situation. Seeing nods. So, all right, cool. I will start with my update on the Norm Leach weekend and how I think it's relevant. Um, and it was, for me, it was a super high point, an amazing event. It was what Norm had to share was incredible. He is this incredible embodiment of what I aspire to in terms of this. He says things about, we all hit the jackpot being able to live as humans on this planet at all. And I've heard things like that said before, and somehow when he says it, it makes sense to me. And it's a kind of joy that can look hardship in the eye and not flinch. And so there was that part of it. Then there was also practically, we did a 2-day workshop with 3 overnight guests, set it up, did it, catered it, participated, cleaned up. And I think there's model information in there, about a little bit how much work it takes to get these things going. But also it was so well received. And I know that the CJ group is kind of, in a way, low-hanging fruit for, the message that Norm had to deliver. But I just saw such a strong appetite for everything that we've been talking about. So I found that very, very confirming. And there were rave reviews about the space and the food and our approach to the Lifeboat Academy. And there were 3 people, one in a couple and one individual, who wanted to know about how to invest in the Lifeboat Academy, and were very and I was telling them a $50,000 minimum investment, and they didn't flinch. And so anyhow, I found it. I think there's something. Oh, and the other thing too is the workshop is the 2-day crash course for the ITFL training, which is 8 modules that are 3 hours each. And we planted a seed, and Norm seems interested in hosting ITFL training here, in the Spalding Valley, which I think could be integrated into the format of the 10-day boot camp. And in terms, just to speak in crass marketing term, in terms of a product, a 10-day residential ITFL training for 12 people, man, that's just incredibly priceless. And anyhow, that's kind of my feedback, and I'm going to pass it over to Roland, who had a lot of activity in it. And then I'll also pass over to Justin and Angie, who were kind of seeing it from the side for feedback. So Roland, over to you. What are your thoughts?
Well, when you were describing the reactions, the things that I heard, oh, it was just so really, really lovely and hilarious. At one point, there was one of the people who were visiting who is Italian and from Italy, who came with the booklet and came right up to me and said, with her thick Italian accent, "This is a jewel. This is a jewel." And was just so enthusiastic about what she had read, and it was so that's the kind of thing, the kind of feedback that I was getting, um, and what I thought. So I didn't actually. I attended the only the second day, which was a half day of the norm talks, and what I thought was interesting, not having been there for the first day, so I may be a little bit off, but what I was seeing was that he talks about what we talk pretty directly, but coming from a very different quarter. And there was I noticed that there was some talk about language, so I may not be using the proper language, but he is a survivor of the Vancouver downtown east side, and still working to help the people there. And and just there were just a whole bunch of different of things that were very different from my experience. And at the same time, I feel like the what he was talking about and what we talk about, that was so closely intertwined, which I thought was very interesting. Just witnessing some really beautiful sharing from the other participants, and some very surprising participants sharing in a way that I wouldn't have expected. So that was pretty interesting also. And I am curious I tried to compare with what we had done before when we've had events. And I think that this event was informed by that. And I think that it's always a really good practice when we're talking about what do we do now to look at what we've done before, because it could be a way of helping us focus. So those are my comments. Uh, yeah, yeah. So Ben, you wanted to, shall I pass over to Angela and Justin?
Yeah, I think just for your observations from the side.
I didn't engage a whole lot. I think I helped Norm find parking. That was it. But the overnight guests, we got to share a meal with them and chat with them for a little bit, and they were super sweet. Yeah, it seemed smooth. And yeah, just to be able to host a group like that. Yeah, it just seemed really smooth, really good. Pass to Ange.
Yeah. I didn't really feel like I had a whole lot to do in in helping with the event. but was happy that I got to help where I could. It did seem like it really went off without a hitch. And just listening to everybody kind of debrief as I was washing dishes, it seemed like everybody was just fully enjoying what they had witnessed and what they were able to be a part of, and the food and yeah, the space. Yeah, it felt really good. I pass to Ben.
Well, and I guess over to Ronnie for questions or observations.
Well, I'm really excited about the planting the seed for an ITFL, a full ITFL training there, because that's been on the wish list for a long time. And I think integrating a training or somebody else's thing with the flow of the lifeboat day, the structure and the activities makes a lot of sense. It's not just like, here's a retreat center for you to use. It's like, bring your thing and we'll combine it with our thing. And I think there's a ton of value there and a way for people to experience the Lifeboat Academy um, in kind of a different way and also the same way at the same time. So I just really, yeah, I really like that. And I think that's really exciting. Um, and I'm noticing sort of the difference in how this kind of thing feels versus like the first design charrette, where it was like people were not sure what was going on and what is this, and the flow wasn't always there. So I'm just kind of comparing the experiences, and I'm like, huh, that's interesting. That's all.
Mhm. Cool. Well, so I'm not really sure how to tackle the next bit because
Roland has his hand
oh,
raised.
Roland.
I'd like to say that setup, greeting, and washing up are absolutely integral to the whole thing. It's not a small part, even if it might feel like it is. And so thank you for doing that. It's all really important stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I want to bounce on that too. There were one of the things I noticed was I was able to kind of go above and beyond in a number of areas because some of the basic stuff was just taken care of and out of the way. And I think I saw other people also having that opportunity to do a little something that was really, just lovely, like the flowers, gathering the flowers and incorporating them into it. Those little things are so nice, and they don't happen if we're just trying to get it, if we're at capacity. That stuff doesn't happen. And so that many hands make light work it doesn't just make light work, it allows it to kind of flower a little bit. I think that's really a good metaphor. So yeah, I double what Roland said. Um, and in terms of the next couple of items, I feel like they kind of outreach for the boot camp and the pay it forward and the localization day and the newsletter are kind of all a piece. So um, I think what I'm gonna do is, and I hope this isn't a cop out, but sort of let's do it kind of gathering consideration style. So really, I think we're talking about it really is an appropriate outreach meeting as well, because it's how do we coordinate the outreach that is happening. And so, yeah, let's just do kind of gathering considerations, maybe a couple rounds. General rule applies. Let's try to stick to one consideration at a time and we'll layer them in. And hopefully the magic of circle will give us that. Oh, so here's what we're going to do. Um, So I'll start taking notes on considerations, and Ronnie, over to you.
So after the meeting last week, the coordination circle, I had proposed in the Asana comments, we could combine the pay it forward appeal with pushing the boot camp, with the boot camp invitation that we've already been thinking about sending to people. And the message could be something like, we're doing this 10-day boot camp 3 times this summer. A really big aspect of what we do is reciprocity. So learning how to live in right relationship with the land, with each other. And, we need community support to be able to offer this boot camp. We need community support to keep the lights on, to make this opportunity possible, which we're getting so much positive feedback from a lot of different people about this place, about the pharmastery. And so it's an invitation to get involved, both by offering financial support if possible and by coming to the boot camp. So there is a very direct exchange that could happen for some people. And I think that's really powerful. You get to directly experience what you're supporting. So, and then the newsletter could basically say, here's when boot camp is happening. Here's how you can support it financially. You can come, you can tell your friends. Here's the website. Here's how you sign up. That's my kind of idea in a nutshell. And I'll pass it to Justin.
Oh, pass to Ange.
I am planning on taking the time after this meeting to send out all my invitations, because I haven't set aside time to do that yet, which I apologize for. And I'm hoping that it won't just be through email, it'll be through Messenger as well. And I'll set a reminder, oh goodness, bless you, in my phone to follow up in maybe like 2 or 3 weeks, because I know we had thought about that as a group. I don't know if there was like an email or like a blurb that we had landed on, which I would be interested in hearing about. And then I'll add my invitations to the Google list that Ronnie has created. And hopefully that boosts some engagement. I do try when I see like our posts on Facebook to like and do what I can there. And thank you for saying small gestures are could and all are also big gestures, because they can be. Yes, I pass to Rowan.
When you were saying that, I was thinking this is an example of a complex system. And I'm again thinking about integrating a little appreciative inquiry in the discussion and looking at how we've handled similar things before, to help us see what worked and what we could try this time around. That really struck me after our last meeting. It was, back to I'm sure we've got that written down somewhere, or we've tried this before. What have we done? So appreciative inquiry, I think, could be really useful. And I was also thinking about that. I liked everything that Ronnie said, and looking at it through the lens of appreciative inquiry could be interesting. over to Ben.
Yeah, and what's coming, that we have this written down. We do have some really good resources already that we created, specifically. So we do have a template. We've got the tracking chart. We did talk about using the outreach meetings as a check-in for like follow-ups. We're in a very good position now for the July, like getting the word out. Now, I actually, part of that tracking, we've got 2 confirmed woofers now who are coming. And then Justin and Angie, well, I'm assuming, will still be here. And Angie's sister is, I think, this is saying it out loud to double check, is possibly coming and possibly interested around that time period. So we kind of already have like a critical mass and space for more. So we're in a really good position. We're kind of augmenting, like we know it's going to happen, right? We've got enough people that we can say this is definitely going to happen in July. And yeah, so, and I really like, Roland, you're bringing up appreciative inquiry. And I think the question is, we have tried this in the past, where we kind of say, send it out, hey, could you send this out? Um, and the ball gets dropped there because not as many people send it out as we would hope. But that could be, I think, what definitely seems to work is positive peer pressure and kind of that personal, having a deadline, like we're going to check in on this at meetings, and at the meetings, we will hold each other to at least going through, hey, have you followed up with, did you hear back from? Do we have anybody to add? And just opening up that spreadsheet, you know, um, and we could actually do, yeah. So anyhow, I kind of feel like what Ronnie said, let's just do that. And the only thing I would add is then there also may be other people that we can send. Oh, I don't even know. And maybe it's just do what Ronnie said. I think that might be the right plan. Over to you, Ronnie. Got continuing considerations.
I have 2 things to possibly add to the plan that I said previously. The first one is I get a lot of emails from different like organizations and different causes when they're asking for financial support. They literally have buttons that's like $20, $50, $100, $200. And we could put that in the newsletter, which everybody will get, as a way to kind of make it more concrete for people. Because it's so easy for people to be like, I don't know what to give. But it's like, here are some options. And we could say, if you've ever visited the pharmacery, if you've ever been to a navigation session, if you've ever been to a lifeboat circle, please consider paying it forward. So it's not even like you owe us for whatever, whatever. It's like, consider paying it forward. Consider making this experience possible for other people. And then here are the different buttons for the different amounts. That was my first idea. And then my second idea, looping in the World Localization Day. I don't know if people saw mine and Ben's conversation about it on the Asana comments, but my idea was that Saturday is also summer solstice. So my idea was to have an online solstice circle, whatever we want to call it, and invite people to come and celebrate what is going well in our local communities. How are we connecting with people? How are we organizing? What kinds of projects are happening? Inviting people to bring a snack, bring a drink, wear a hat, like just like we've talked about having celebrations like this, and we haven't really done it online. But that's also a way to invite people to come together rather than just sending a bunch of emails, actually bringing people together in a space And in that space, we can also say, we're doing Gumboot Boot Camp. We'd love to have you. Tell your friends. Also, please consider paying it forward so that we can offer it, so that this can continue to happen. So that's a more relational way to ask for that support. And I don't think it would be hard to organize the circle. It would be basically a lifeboat circle, but like, what are you celebrating in your communities? So yeah, I'm curious what people think about that. And I will pass it to Justin.
Justin had to go, so it is me. I love that idea. I think that's a great way to get people to engage, to get the word out there. I also think that the amounts button is a great idea. The easier we can make it for people, the better the chance we have. Which I think is why we were having such a hard time with the pay it forward, because people just don't know and they don't want to try to make the best decision because they're too afraid to make the wrong decision. And in that, we can have like a custom button. So you could do however you can afford. Or even other ways of reciprocity in that email, like share this email. If you can't afford financial, you can do this. This and this is also a great way to support the Lifeboat Academy. Yeah, I also get lots of emails from whatever I've subscribed to, which is kind of why my thinking was I'm gonna send the Lifeboat Bootcamp email blurb edited into the abundance group chat that I'm part of, and just be like, hey, remember you wanted to come visit Justin and I? Like, this is a great way to do it, because then you get to know like everything about what we're trying to do here. And my family is coming, but it's not in line up perfectly with the dates of the Gumboot Boot Camp. So I need to have a conversation with, I don't know if it's this group or with just Ben and Roland, or about what that looks like or what it could look like. And my sister is planning on staying with my parents at their Airbnb, which opens up more space for potential people to come, which is how I'm choosing to look at it. And I think those are all of my thoughts. I pass to Roland.
I'm still thinking of the looking at what we've done before, because I think that the button in the email is a great idea, and it's in line with other conversations that we've had about adding buttons to places. I know probably the website, and if there's now technology where you can do it in the email, that's great. And then what platforms do we already have in, are there platforms that we already have in place that to be able to receive any gifts that are suitable? Because we also have things in place that that we could use. Um, yeah. And I really like the idea of introducing it not only in emails, but in chats and forums that people are part of. Um, the idea of the online June 21st thing, I think is a good idea. And I think just to put myself in the context, it's not the type of thing that I tend to be attracted to, which is I'm saying it as something to keep in mind, that we will be appealing to the people to whom this kind of activity would attract. So in the same spirit as we are trying to talk to the people who are what's the phrase, collapse aware and climate alarmed, not to everybody. Uh, so kind of putting things into context. Over to Ben.
Yeah, it makes me think of I don't want to make it more complicated than it needs to be, but I was thinking about well, there are two thoughts around the World Localization Day. And the one is can we arrange a critical mass that we know will be there ahead of time? Like, not just put it out there and say who's interested, but like, April, are you going to be there? Uh, Ruth, are you going to be there? Austin, are you going to be there? Um, and so we have some sense of it ahead of time. And I wonder how hard would it be if we encourage people to be in nature, like outside where you still have Wi-Fi, so that it isn't just like a Zoom meeting, that it's actually like a meetup online where, you could actually like turn your camera around and say, like, I've never seen Ruth's garden. Could Ruth be in the garden, and could she, invite a friend from the garden to come and just say hi online, and that it's do something to make it, to kind of anchor in that it is place-based. It isn't just a Zoom meeting, because I know that's one of the feedback, we kind of consistently get is like, the last thing I need is another Zoom meeting. So is there a way that we can have it as a Zoom meeting, but it's not just another Zoom meeting? And one of the things that Angie and I were talking about at lunch is just the timeline. We're going to Quadra at the end of this week until the beginning of next week, and then it's like poof, it's the 21st pretty much. So that's I guess the concern I have is about how did the arrangements get made, and are we taking on too much in a short period of time? So there's probably a pretty easy compromise there of like contacting the inner circle and say, hey, would you be interested in this? And if we get 5 people who are willing to do it, then we do it. And if not, we say, okay, we tried. And I feel like, are we at the point now where we can just kind of say, what are the next steps? Like, who's going to do what by when, and start to get to that level of practicality?
Do we,
Yeah.
sorry to break circle, but do we ever vote on things? Like, do we need to vote on whether we do the localization day?
We don't vote, we seek objections. So it's the voting is, can you live with it, or do you have an objection? And if you have an objection, do you have a friendly amendment that can move it towards something that is doable? So yeah, I feel like I'm moving towards next steps, and but we'll keep going and let things evolve. So over to you, Ronnie.
Well, one thing is I like the idea of being outside in nature while we're on Zoom, and it's really hot here, and it's like 107 degrees in Phoenix in the afternoon, Fahrenheit, sorry. So for those of us in this region, I don't know how doable that will be, unfortunately, which is also partly why we're part of the Lifeboat Academy, right? It is unbearably hot in some areas. But I will do my best. Maybe some shade in the backyard. Um, yeah, I would like to do the event, and I like the idea of it, of tapping on some folks and saying, is this something you'd be interested in? I know April would be, because she's every season she's like, let's do a party on Zoom. Like, let's have cocktails, let's celebrate, And it's also something I feel like I don't do enough, and it would help me to notice more of like what's going well in my work in my communities. Um, yeah, where is there some joy? So I would like to do it. And then if people say yes, then we can include a wider invite to folks. And yeah, settle on the time and stuff. I was thinking kind of later afternoon slash maybe like late afternoon Pacific time, early evening Central and Eastern time. I'm curious if other people that sounds okay. In terms of next steps, one is to add language about the appeal for support to the template for the Gumboot Bootcamp invite. And kind of reviewing all of that and seeing if that feels good. Once that's done, I can put the newsletter together and basically import that, probably not all of it, but part of it into the newsletter, add the buttons. I have a question. We already have a pay it forward fund on Fundraiser where we can accept donations. That's a fairly old fundraiser. So I had one thought, which is we could make a new one, which is like support Gumboot Bootcamp 2025 to make it really specific. So it's not just like help us pay our bills, which is obviously very fine and valid, but like to have a specific, we're doing this summer, help us make this happen. And have them, we can have a goal, a dollar amount goal. And making a new fundraiser, it doesn't take that much time. It's just a matter of having the login for the website, which I'm happy to do that, but I will need the login. Okay, so yeah, editing the template, putting the newsletter together. Do we want to do a new fundraiser? And reaching out to people about the circle. Those are my ideas. Over to Angela.
I did have a idea as to people whose outside areas are not accessible. We could encourage people to just get creative with it, right? Like if you have a bunch of houseplants or one or two houseplants, surround yourself with houseplants. Or even if you have like a shower curtain that has a forest on it, you can sit in front of your shower curtain. I don't know, things like that. We can just, in the spirit of solstice, get like creative with it, and that might, yeah, introduce play and introduce fun. I do have a question about like adding the appeal to the template for the Gumboot email invite thing. Okay. Because I was planning on just sending out what we had to everybody, but should I wait to add the appeal, or is there something we can agree on now that I can just type it out? What do we want that to look like? I also want to move on to next steps for the localization day because I think it would be fun and I think fairly easy to set up. And a way to like get my family involved too, because my family and we always want to celebrate solstice and equinoxes more. And if this is happening, that would be great. I pass to Roland.
I wanted to bring forward Ben's idea of having a meetup in person. That's what I heard anyway, and the Zoom meetup. I think that would be one of the things that I feel gets lost and is really central to the Lifeboat Academy, and is that the Lifeboat Academy is to help individuals come together in local places and then create links with other lifeboats in other places, not just individuals meeting online. So would it makes it would seem would make seem it would seem to make sense to me that if we have sort of an in-person meetup here that then is part of the Zoom meeting, that we also encourage other groups, other people to bring people together to be part of the larger thing. I have no idea what that would look like. You know, as I said, this isn't my kind of thing. I don't know if it's a thing that's done, but how to imbue the idea in activities like this, that the Lifeboat Academy is about making connections between different lifeboats, and that each lifeboat is a collective of people that come together to work together in their local place, which is World Localization Day. Over to Ben.
Yeah, and I think that could be, I agree, and that's one of the ways that we can support people to develop a local network, is to say, hey, we're having this event, invite a friend. You know, if there's somebody that you know, Austin just made just probably a while ago, Austin made a connection with somebody that he was aligned with politically and then found out he lived in the neighborhood. So, you know, Austin, can you invite him to your house where you can both be on Zoom together? And I think we could set it up um, sort of recognizing the advantage and the limitations of Zoom, where it gives people an excuse to invite somebody over. We can do something short together. And then with this idea that like, and we all get a chance to share, but it's really about kind of, and now go off and, you know, continue the party where you are, you know. Um, we check in with each other, and then now and anyone can stay online if you want to stay online, but you also can just go and hang out with your peeps, you know, where you are. And just like you were saying, you know, Angela, the people are looking for excuses to have get-togethers, and we're just giving them an excuse to do it. And a little support. You don't have to think through the agenda, right? You just invite your friend at the time, and we'll do a little intro and give you like, you know, a way of continuing it. So I think that's a great idea. I really like it, and not really that hard. I don't think, you know, two people can sit in front of a Zoom screen just as easy as one can, right? And you know, we already know how to do that because we've been doing that where we have more than one person in one space, and that's easy. This is all feeling pretty much like it's falling together, and Uh, oh, Angie, in terms of the appeal language, we do have some language, but we're gonna need to get the technology lined up, like the button. So I think if you can hold off until we get that part of it in place, and then we're ready to go. And we do have some language around it, but
Maybe, sorry, maybe I will just send out like hey, I'm gonna invite you to this, but I'll have more information in
yeah,
soon. Okay.
awesome. Yep. Cool. All right. So in terms of next step, we do have the appeal language already, you know, in the description for the Asana task, and we can kind of port that into and we have the template for the email. So that should be fairly easy. It seems like a lot is falling on your shoulders, Ronnie, which is okay if it's okay with you. It's great for me if it's okay with you. But does this look okay to you? And I can offer any support that will be helpful. Um, and are we missing anything? So yeah, over to you.
Well, first, I love the coordinated solstice gatherings idea. That sounds great. And I'm sending a message to friends to be like, do you want to come because we do have a pool here, so we can Zoom from the pool comfortably. Well, sort of comfortably without getting the laptop wet. But anyway, that's my plan. Um, uh, if somebody else could add the appeal language to the template, that would be really helpful. And then I can do the assembling the newsletter, because the newsletter is going to be a little bit more of a schlep if that's the right word, I think this week, just kind of putting everything together. But I have the whole morning tomorrow free, so I can work on this. And yeah, also adding stuff to the website, and the new fundraiser. Yeah. So if someone else could work on that language, that would be really helpful. I'm happy to like look it over and add stuff too. But yeah, that would be cool. So is it safe to say let's go ahead and reach out to lifeboat builders and just say, hey, we're gonna do this thing. Do you want to get some folks together on Solstice? And I think just kind of reaching out informally. I'll reach out to Austin and Ruth. Do we want to send out an email to the whole lifeboat builders list? Does anybody feel up for drafting that email? If not, I can do it.
And that's what would be involved in that? That's just for Solstice / local globalization, global localization day.
World, yeah, whatever. World localization.
We're hoping to have a lifeboat event where you invite folks to your place and we celebrate what's going on locally, come together to celebrate what's going on. I can give that a shot for, yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you. Yeah. Other than that, yeah, what is a good goal for the fundraiser to start for now? And you don't have to come up with it right this second, but that is something that would be good to know. Yeah, over to Angela.
Can we invite non-lifeboat people as well? Okay.
Always.
Okay,
Yeah.
because it's gonna be a like, this is great to hear what everybody else is happening in their communities, but we're also doing this gumboot boot camp, and this is what we're doing, kind of thing. Okay. Yeah, so I can send out feelers into the abundance community, because I'll be mentioning the gumboot boot camp as well, and that the solstice Zoom party will be a great place to ask questions and hear about it more.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll reach out to some friends as well, just to be like, hey, I'm part of this, and if you're interested and we're having a party, you can just learn more about what's happening here, or just come celebrate for something to do. Yes, I pass to Roland.
Sounds good to me. I think I am having some difficulty tracking now, so I'm just noting that and sharing it so that to help with me being patient with me and you being patient with me, you being patient with me too. Uh, so it all sounds good as far as I can tell. Over to Ben.
Yeah, me too. And I think that's we are all circle keepers, and it's good to be reminded about time and energy, and we're getting close to the end of time, and I'm feeling really I think I'm already starting my checkout because I feel like this all came together. It feels like it's coming together pretty seamlessly. And I think in terms of I can come up with a goal. I think Ronnie, your timing sounds just right for me. I think solstice kind of implies there's sort of an even, like the towards the end of celebrating the big day, kind of the long day. And um so yeah, if you just want to pick a time that seems to work, I would be grateful. And yeah, and then I can be available. I can be as available as I can be in order in answering any questions or providing any, support and logins and all that kind of stuff. So I think we're ready to kind of close up. So I'm going to do the double round. This round is any last action item, detail-y, agenda-y kinds of things that we want to get cleared before we finish. And we can popcorn at this point if we need to on that. And then we'll do an actual checkout round where we can um, share goodbyes. So this round, any other detail-y things that we need to talk through before we can say we're good and done? Ronnie, over to you.
I think 4 p.m. Pacific would be a good time, which would be 6 p.m. here. To do just a gathering for everybody. And my only other question is how long? I think not more than an hour, but just enough time to hear from everybody who wants to share. Um, and yeah, Ben, we can message about more details in the morning. Other than that, I think I'm good. Over to Angela.
I don't think I can think of anything else to add. I pass to Roland.
I looked up World Localization Day to get the date at the beginning of the meeting, and only now am I actually looking at the result in its entirety. And there is actually an international NGO at worldlocalizationday.org that talks about events and resources and global partners and getting involved in all of that stuff. And I'm just throwing this at the end of the meeting in how closely do we want to be related to that? And which, to answer, it probably would be taking a moment to actually look at the website and look at the stuff to see if it would support us or detract from what we're doing. Over to Ben.
I think I looked at it and I think what we're doing is it's all in alignment with it. I guess it's a question of if we want to try to get like on their map or something like that. Which I would say, sure, why not? If it doesn't involve too much effort. Um, so, um,
So maybe we can do an Asana thing if Ronnie and Angie, if you would have a look at the website, and if you're all agreed, then I can see about how to get on their map, what the get involved means.
mhm.
So I would take that on if if you all think it's worthwhile.
Cool, cool, cool. Alrighty. And I feel well and complete. So, yeah, just one last round, last thoughts for the good of the cause, and an opportunity to check out. Over to you, Ronnie.
I'm happy with becoming an official part of the World Localization Day, blah de blah, whatever the thing is. I have looked at the website, and I thought it looked cool. I'm really excited about everything that we're getting done and putting out in the world and sharing, and it all feels timely and seasonal and exciting. So thanks everyone for your work on this. And pass it to Angela.
I haven't looked at the website, but I'm gonna take all y'all's words for it and say that I'm gonna agree. I'll have a look, and if I like absolutely hate it, I'll let you know. um, yeah, I think this is exciting. Um, I'm finding myself feeling a little overwhelmed with everything and having my own like qualms about my own work ethics. And I'm trying to take inspiration from everybody in the circle of like, this feels so good and this is like exciting. And why don't we do this? And why don't we do that? And so I'm just gonna follow y'all's footsteps and go with the flow. I pass to Roland.
Happy upcoming World Localization Day, and I wish you all a good night. Over to Ben.
Yeah. Um, yeah, go with the flow. I think what I and I'm saying this as a frequent reminder to myself. There's that whole shoot for the stars and hit the moon kind of thing, and staying focused on what's the risk and what's the start. Like um, we get done what we can get done, and if we have a little event and we have some fun on solstice and we all get a chance to celebrate solstice, and we're good to go. And if we make it easier for somebody to invite a couple more people to get exposure, then also good to go. So a lot of it's kind of take a shot, and sometimes you miss and sometimes you get it, and that's how the game goes. Um, Yeah, I'm really feeling I was a little coming into this a little anxious about like, oh, it's a really long agenda and there's a lot to get through and da 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 da. And I'm very pleased with how tangible it feels right now. So onward and upward. Thank you all, and you know, see you around, keep the faith and all that kind of stuff. Bye.